What's up, folks? This is Living the Lines, a 5-fold media production. Today we have with us Middle Tennessee artist Biddy James. His new single, Heartbreak Hotel, is out everywhere you get music. He's been blowing it up for the past couple weeks, and it's finally out. I want you to tell me about the song, but first, I want to know, how did you get into music? Where did you get started into all this?
Man, I was working at the city. I was just about to turn 21 years old, and I think maybe I took like a $400 paycheck up to Steve Austin up there and bought a overpriced Johnson guitar. And I'd go home. I had a little rental house right by Drakewood Market in Portland, and I'd get on YouTube every
Okay.
day and play a little guitar and try to learn four chords, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, I was around 20, something like that.
Yeah. Um, so did you come from a musical family, or what were some of your early influences?
So at that time I bought the guitar. My grandfather was in real bad health, and it was actually probably a week maybe before he died. He died right after his birthday, but um, he always had these guitars just, grandparents' house, don't bother nothing,
Yeah.
put upstairs or something like that. He
Yeah.
had an old Gibson and then like a real old Epiphone when they were still made in Michigan or whatever.
Right.
And but he played around and picked a little bit, and I mean, as far as a music family, that's about all of it. But as definitely as a kid, anything you toy with, but guitars, seeing guitars, I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I wanna do that.
There's something about that, man. Just even before you know anything about it, certain personality types are just drawn to the instrument,
Yeah,
you know?
I think everybody at some point, whether they do it or not, they want to learn to play guitar.
It's like being a cowboy. It's like kids from the city, for whatever reason, they watch Western movies or something. They
Yeah.
there's something in your nature that makes you just kind of want to. Um, what were some of the stuff you were listening to growing up that was kind of resonating with you?
Um,
Was your parents into
early
music
on,
and playing
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
around?
We'd go up to the Bowling Green flea market. That was like a regular thing. My
Oh
dad,
yeah,
he was a little wild, and
yeah.
uh, those type of people that go to the
Yeah.
flea market on the
Oh,
weekends.
dude,
That's where I
those are my
come from.
people, man.
Yeah,
Those
that's
are my
where I come
people.
from, and
That's back when you could still smoke in there too,
yeah,
probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It smelled like cookies, and then you go over the next aisle, it smelled like cigarette
And you
smoke.
buy
Some
a
guys,
sugar glider and
yeah, old buddy's trying to sell you a die-cast Dale Earnhardt or a phone case.
yeah.
But what brought that up was, he would just buy CDs from there, and he had a 1988 Thunderbird, all black car, red interior, and I remember hearing Eddie Montgomery, Dr. Hook.
Okay.
That stuff kind of stuck with me a little bit.
Yeah.
Not to say it influenced me, but it takes
Was
me
that
to a
cover of the
place
Rolling
when
Stones?
yeah,
Yeah.
Sylvia's Mother. You ever heard that one?
I don't think
A lot
so,
of people
man.
said I really listened to that CD, but
Yeah.
Sylvia's Mother, it was like dun 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 dun. It's a real sad song. This guy's trying to call this girl's mom to get her so he can talk to her. But yeah, just early on stuff like that. I remember hearing Aaron Tippin. When I think about my childhood, early on, that's what I was listening to.
As a songwriter, it's interesting to kind of go back and look at some of the stuff you were listening to and that kind of resonated with you before you started writing, because you don't even know why you like that stuff.
Yeah,
It could be something that maybe has really no real relation to what you do, but sonically it just resonates in a way.
yeah.
Where did you grow up at?
I grew up I went to Portland schools, but excuse me, technically Cottontown,
Okay.
little back road called Aplin Branch Road.
So you're Middle Tennessee, born and bred your whole life.
Yeah.
Do you think that the area that you grew up in has had a significant impact on your music and who you are as an artist?
Yeah, I would say that, especially like the early on stuff that I wrote. Just trying to my first song was called Small Town Tennessee,
Right.
and I think this as well. When you're this close to Nashville, you kind of in a sense, maybe take a little bit more pride in being from a small town and not, right there in the middle of that big city. So,
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to ask you. If you feel like growing up in such close proximity to Nashville has kind of made you more driven in music? Because to me, it always kind of gives off the vibe like it's just right there.
right.
you're 30 miles from all your wildest, craziest dreams that really could come a reality. Because when you mess around with this stuff, especially living as close as we do to Nashville, you literally never know what could happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's a land of opportunity right there. It's any musician's dream. There's
Right.
people that pack up their whole entire life to, live around where we grew up. And um, yeah, I'd say it drives me a little bit. I think the past couple of years with like bigger artists that are from around here, I've kind of watched the divide where you either shun it or you take advantage of the opportunities that it can give you. So
Right.
I'd like to take advantage of it one day, in my own way. And
Yeah, because there's really only a few places in the whole entire world that have the opportunities that are there. No matter what people's perception of the popular music that's coming out of Nashville and stuff, it's where the booking agents are. It's where
right.
the production companies. It's where the tour leaves out from most of the time, and the rehearsal spaces and everything. So it can't just completely be just dismissed. But like, if do you see yourself as a person that would have moved to Nashville if you hadn't been born in this area?
Uh, I don't know.
It's a
Uh,
big leap for a lot of people, man, and a lot of
yeah,
people really take that leap.
probably not.
Yeah,
I would probably be, stuck somewhere trying to just stay in that area and grind it out, play shows. But I don't know. That's tough. It's tough because we're from here. It's like,
I know.
would you leave? And being from here, you don't have resentment, but like people come from out of town, they'll call you, we're going to Broadway and this and that. And you're
Yeah.
like, not to hate on Nashville. It's fun, but once you do it so much, it's like,
Oh yeah. I just mean, like, if you were from somewhere that wasn't so close to Nashville, you might have not been inspired to make music as much as you
right,
are,
right.
just because, like, it's just such a huge part of everybody we meet plays and sings a little bit.
Right.
And you're just it's so second nature that when you hear songs on the radio, it's almost like hearing them from a little bit of your hometown because they're just coming from right up the
Right
road,
now.
Do you remember there being a moment where you're like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do?
Uh, yeah. So when I first started playing Rewind 2020, I'm still sitting in the little garage out there, at that rental house, like trying to figure out the four chords,
Right.
and my brother, you've met Ricky. When I told him I wanted to do it, he just kind of like, let's do it. He's
Yeah.
one of those guys. He dabbles in a little bit of everything, but super supportive in anything I've ever done. But just kind of put me on the tracks and was like, roll. So yeah, in a small town like that, you play these little shows at these pubs or wherever it might be. Hearing, people may request a song you wrote and put on Facebook the week before or something
Right.
like that. So I think that's the kind of stuff that kept me going at
Yeah.
the start of it. So.
When you first got your guitar over there at Steve's, what was some of the stuff you were listening to and like trying to learn how to play?
Uh, Luke Combs. I mean,
You said
the
this was in
early stuff.
2020.
Yeah,
This was right during where
this was
nobody
when
had nothing to do but
right.
play guitar.
Yeah, chasing you. Morgan Wallen just hit radio.
Yeah.
Um, that stuff, and I was just really I was playing anything on tabs that didn't have a B minor in it.
Right.
You know,
D,
I,
C, and G.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I heard an interesting story about Morgan Wallen. There's a songwriter in Nashville, Craig Wiseman. He's been around for years. He's wrote for everybody, but he's recently done some writing for Morgan Wallen. And he didn't discover Morgan, but from a writing standpoint, he was right there whenever he was kind of getting started. He said the day that they wrote "Chasing You," Morgan drove a shitty borrowed truck to the session, and he said when Morgan came to town, he said he had a great voice and shitty songs.
Yeah.
And he said that was, about that time, probably 2018 or so. And from then till now, that whole thing, he got to sit back and watch it develop from the start to the beginning. And I mean, there's probably nobody that's ever been as big as Morgan Wallen
That's
is right
crazy.
now. Like, he's selling out more and doing more stuff. There's been every generation has kind of had their person that was at that level. but he's just crossed over into so many different, there's no genre lines with him,
No.
he kind of does a little bit of everything.
He united a lot of people. Craig Wiseman wrote "Live Like You're Dying."
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
hmm
for Tim McGraw.
Yeah, he's been
I read
around
up
for
on him a little
everybody,
bit.
but that's what he said. He said when they wrote "Chasing You" together, he showed up in a borrowed shitty truck, didn't have no money, no nothing, was just getting started, and like when you hear so many stories down there about dreams that come true for people that it's just fate,
No.
it's going to happen or it's not, and you just kind of got to stick with it. When did you kind of start playing for more than just your family and stuff, getting out in the bars?
Played my first show in East Nashville, and it's like real sketchy place. I think it was
Okay.
like in the back of a scrapyard
Right.
with I mean it was the guys I played it with swore it was sold out, but the only thing we sold out was I think like the 8 Miller Lights they had left in the fridge. They were
Right.
selling like hemp weed and stuff.
Okay.
Just a little different, when you
Yeah.
from around here and you go down there, it's a little different vibe.
It ain't the hitching post. Huh?
No, and there was like some like rappers opening up the show, and I got up there and played like 5 or 6 songs. But yeah, that's first place I played, and then kind of got on a ring. My brother started looking for little small venues around here to book me at, and I played the Portland Pub a lot. Kind of cut my teeth there as far as
Yeah.
learning to play, and I've heard people say things about that, and my buddies make jokes, oh, you only play at the pub. But man, I was just like, I was thankful for that in order to, play there weeks upon weeks and then go out to some different place and play and be a little bit better because I've been able to get on stage and kind of know what it feels like to play in front of a little bit of a crowd. So
Yeah, I mean, I heard a lot of people talk about you can't wait till you're good to go out and start playing.
Yeah.
You got to get out there amongst the people. Were you kind of reluctant to take that step at first and put yourself out there like that?
uh, like I said earlier,
Because that's a pretty quick transition from getting your first guitar and kind of getting your
Yeah.
bearings about you to just jumping right in the fire.
and you're limited to what you can play when you know about 4 chords. I had a lot of guys around me early on that got on shows with me that really helped me out. Me and Michael, I hadn't been playing long. We jumped in a Sprinter van and took off to Alabama, or no, Rome, Georgia, and
Okay, I was unaware of this.
Yeah,
Y'all got to tell me about this road trip.
I think I was asleep. He helped drive back, and well, we went down there.
Who's Sprinter van?
Grabbed a little. We rented a Sprinter van.
Okay, y'all was big dog status, son.
No.
Hell yeah.
I was just hoping to make the set, man. He jumped in there with us, and we went down there, and we had no idea where the place was, and I think it might have been like a cover up for a little bit of drug dealing or
Money
something.
laundering or something?
There was it was just weird. It was a VFW, but there was a Bentley with a drive out tag sitting in the parking lot,
Yeah.
and just a different crowd. First time I ever seen somebody clogged though. It just wasn't like the set. It was just a really wild time. But
Whose gig was it?
mine
was your
well
gig?
Rick had put it together with some guys. Austin Bishop I think met us down there. At that point, man, I was just trying to play anywhere I could play, and but I'm thankful for guys like Michael and Jack Fiddler. When I early on, man, I owe everything to them because we're booking, playing somewhere, trying to get 3 hours of music, and they would ride
Stuff,
with me,
man.
and
Yeah, stuff.
yeah,
And you can get stuck in that cover band grind where you get to a point where you got it running like a machine, but
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily translate well with original artists
No.
sometimes,
yeah. Now I can play a shitty B minor chord, but I can play about 4 hours of covers. But I prefer not to do that.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do that to get started, and that's where you
Right.
get a lot of inspiration. That's how you learn your bones of how to write songs and stuff. I've always been impressed by you and your brother's tenacity for like creating y'all's own opportunities. And like you said, you've put a lot of musicians to work, man. Y'all were putting on a lot of these different like day events, and
Yeah.
it's almost like, well, if the festivals aren't calling, we'll just create our own.
Yeah.
Create those platforms for you
Yeah.
to be on and stuff. y'all are doing like day events, like car shows and like truck meets and all that stuff. Some of those bills would have 15 or 20 songwriters on them.
Yeah.
Some people from all over. I still to this day run into people who are like, oh yeah, we were there with this and that. What's kind of some of the biggest events that y'all were putting on back then? Because y'all had some pretty good turnouts.
The one in Lebanon, the first time we did the music festival in Lebanon was pretty big. It was the truck show going on. We did like a cornhole thing. That one was pretty big for us. And then, well, I say for us, really, I was just a little young shithead drinking beer, hanging out with my friends. My brother was kind of putting it
Right.
together. I owe that all to him. And then out in Baxter, Tennessee, we did Catfish and
Yeah,
Country
that was
Music
a big one.
Festival.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the name of
The
that.
the first one out there was pretty cool
I've
too.
still
But
ran into a lot of people that played out there that day.
festivals are weird though, man. So like we had a huge turnout the first one in Lebanon, and like second one we were doing pretty much the same thing, and more people knew about it, and people that had FOMO from the first time were like, yeah, we'll be there. It rained all day. Some vendors canceled because of that, but we still made a good time of it.
Yeah, from the outside looking in, it really does seem like you have a pretty solid support system around you. With Rick, your brother, like he's kind of the driving force with, like you were saying, with a lot of those events and, done a lot of your booking and booking for some other local venues and stuff. Do you think you would be pursuing it as an artist if you didn't have that much of a solid foundation around you?
Man, it would be tough at first, if I'm being honest with you. Like, I think it allowed for me to be a little bit more lenient on him in a sense where I shouldn't have been, and I was less consistent because of that.
Yeah.
Without somebody, like it takes a team. I mean, I'm talking more
An
more than just a
organization.
guy and his little brother, trying to make music. I mean,
Yeah.
you got content as far as recording anybody in the studio. Like you got to be with the right people to feel creative to make all these things kind of come full circle. So, without it, no, I'd say, it's
That's
just,
what they
but
say.
I was 21 years old, drinking beer, hanging out, really treating the shows like a hangout with my friends.
Yeah.
It's just,
There's a lot of people
of
that
it.
would argue that those are the best artists, the ones that when you can get in a position where you can allow yourself to be the artist and
Right.
not have to be the booking agent and the
Right.
content creator and all that, you can be freed up to be more expressive and stuff. And sometimes as an artist, it's hard to accurately judge your own work or yourself or your art, and you need that group of people around you that is going to be honest, that
Right.
maybe if you don't believe in yourself, you can lean on them to believe in you for,
Yeah.
for a while.
Like I love her to death and hey mom, but I would never call my mom and ask her if a song was good or not. It's always
It's so
good.
great.
And it's kind
Yeah.
of like that. So you have to be careful
Yeah.
in a sense who you surround yourself with, like, nowadays, but you can also, I think you can be a little bit too hard on yourself as far as creating songs and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
You can
and
hold it
shelve
too
stuff
personal,
that,
too
yeah,
valuable to you. But then also you see bigger artists get in a position where they're surrounded by nothing but yes men, and like
Yeah.
you can tell like somebody should have told this guy somewhere before this that.
yeah,
But it's just everything's subjective with music, man. Like what you like and what I like and what somebody else like is going to be completely different, and there's really no right or wrong way, because almost a lot of things will resonate with maybe not the masses, but if you go out there and beat the ground down, you will develop a certain following of people that enjoy what you
right.
do. If you've been doing it for a while and you've put in the work, it's inevitable to not have some form of a fan base.
And I think early on, I had a good support system as far as the early stuff we put out, and I ended up I had about 18 songs out on all platforms, and as of like a week and a half ago, I ended up taking down 16 of them. So I've got 2 songs out now.
Okay.
Well, 3, because when this podcast comes out, we'll have
Yep.
the song dropped. But yeah, just I had a phenomenal support system, and even though I might not have felt like those songs were good, I owe a lot to those people that supported me no matter what.
Right. Well, so tell me about some of your early stuff, because I was listening to your stuff today, and like you said, there's only 3 or 4 songs on there now.
Yeah. Um, COVID, well, 2020, we had COVID,
Yeah.
and me and my brother were talking about this. He says it was a blessing. I know a lot of people passed away, and so it wasn't a blessing. But for us, man, I
Right.
was early on in that, and it kind of allowed me time, like full days. We'd go grill at his house. There was
Yeah.
nothing open, nothing to do. So I wrote a bunch then. Um, Early on, man, I think I was writing from a good place, but I wasn't critiquing my stuff. I wasn't listening to things that, sound like stuff kind of on the radio or pursuing a certain thing to make sure it's marketable. I was
Right.
just writing songs about getting my name on a welcome sign or like showing my soon to be wife Sumner County tonight or being from small town Tennessee. I was just writing anything that came to mind. And in a sense, I think it was kind of like those three chord in the truth type songs.
Right.
But for a lot of people, those don't sell. So I just had to, I took down 16 songs. Is there a few good ones in there that I think could be something one day? Yeah. And I hope to maybe rework some of them, kind of put them back up and let people listen to them.
See, we're in a strange place with music now. Before things got to the where they are now with all the streaming and stuff, there was a time when they had a certain period of artist development. You would get signed by somebody or whatever, and they would give you two or three albums to just kind of work through a lot of that stuff before they actually expected something. But the way it is now, like you're expected to show up at the door with a package,
Right.
ready to go.
It is. We had a meeting. I was never like real big about announcing it. Really, nothing came from it. We had a meeting with a producer downtown inside of a record label, and he basically broke that down for me. It's like, if you don't have this amount of followers, if you don't have this or that, they're not playing, build a country music star anymore. And it's
Right.
just not
They
like
used to
that.
be.
Right, right. It
They could
used to be a
find a guy
thing.
that had a good tone or a good writing style or just something that was
Yeah,
interesting to those A&R guys,
right.
and they would take them back and fund them and try to help them create something.
No.
What what is your perception on like a record deal? Are you a person that would be interested in that route, or are you more interested in sticking to be an independent artist?
I've always favored the independence. Well, now that I'm a little bit more knowledgeable and I've like kind of heard how things work, I think, you guys would agree with uh to a certain point, independent is the way to go.
All
But
right.
there's a difference, independent, you might not ever hear your song on the radio. Um, Somebody asked like, "What do you feel like's making music?" There might be a Carrie Underwood song that I don't like that's on 95.5, but when I click over to 96.7 and it's there, she's doing something. That
Right.
song's, doing something for her. Um, but I think you can kind of draw independent out to a certain point, and there's just you can max it out, and then there's
Yeah.
a step. I prefer the independent way, but now we have so much. There's so much available to an independent artist and ways of doing things that it almost makes sense doesn't make sense to go and get yourself in a hole with some of these record labels. I've never personally sat down with an executive of a record label and them break down a deal for me and really looked at it from every which way. But from what I've heard and even listening to some of these guys that are signed to record labels that are doing phenomenal, there's no need for it unless you're.
Yeah, you get some funding on the front end, you get some tour support, you get access to their contacts and stuff, but I'll always put it in terms of how much of your soul do you want to sell,
Right.
you know, because you can sell as much or as little as you want, and to every person's perception is different, but back to maybe you might not have a hit. You have people like Kid Rock who's never had a number one.
Right.
Like I think his closest he ever got to something like that was like Billboard top 50 with All Summer Long, which
Yeah.
is, a Sweet Home Alabama, kind of rip off,
Yeah.
remix, rip off, whatever. I don't mean that in a bad way, but he's had a lifelong career. He's had so much success, but he's never. And I mean, I would say he's a mainstream artist, but
No.
he's never had that on paper, like a number one or a chart topper or this, that, and the other.
This is kind of a side comment, but I've been to a lot of concerts, and I kind of always rated performers like who's the best performer I've seen. Cody Johnson was my number one. I've
Right.
been to see him twice, And we went out to, those big festivals Kid Rock was doing, Rock
Yeah.
the Country or whatever. We went out to Poplar Bluff, Missouri.
FIFO Media is pushing hard to get on one of those.
Man, Kid Rock is by far the best performer I've ever seen in my life.
I've seen him a few
I
times.
looked at him and was like, man, he will make you want to do the shit regardless whether you play music or not. I mean,
Yep.
just a different guy.
And regardless of what you feel about his actual art or whatever, you have to look at the bigger picture of
Right.
what he's created. And from in those days in 97, 98, 99, like that was just a different world back then.
No.
And for him to make it as far as he did is inspiring. So what are some of you kind of took a break from playing out here lately?
Yeah. And we kind of visited it earlier, but I got kind of tired of the 4 hour bar sets.
Right.
At the end of the day, and you felt it too. You play in these dive bars, and you get the crowd singing along. Everybody's drinking, having a great time. That is a good feeling. It's a great feeling, and I'm thankful for all the stages I've played and places I've been and friends I've met because of the places I've played. But I've kind of really been gearing towards trying to build a body of work to where I can build a live show myself.
Right.
Earlier on, I've played some full band stuff locally here, not much, but it was really mainly cover stuff and try to fill in with some originals on where I could. But yeah, I just kind of slacked back on it. My daughter, she'll be 2 in May. That's a big part of, wanting
Right.
to stay home and hang out. And yeah, so I'm kind of gearing towards right now. I've got some stuff cooking. We're trying to build a live show.
Yeah. Yeah, getting out and playing those cover gigs, it can be a lot of fun, man. We had Justin Bolden in here. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's
Yeah.
from Franklin, and he that's the bulk of what he does is they stay down there on Broadway, and keeping a band together is so tough. I mean,
Oh,
I've seen,
absolutely.
you try to get pickers and play these shows and stuff. We've been around each other for a long time, and you're just kind of grasping at whoever, and unless you've got really great gigs where you're making some money, it's just hard to keep those guys around,
Right.
because they're always looking for somewhere to go and work.
There's a level to everything. And my brother, as much as he's done for me, there's a level to where he doesn't have the right contacts to get some of those huge shows and allow us to stay super busy, full band,
Right.
this and that. It's all part of
Yeah,
it.
you
But
really have to build up to the band thing
right,
because if you're not staying out there and keeping those guys fed, you're going to get that caliber that you need.
right.
Who are some of your favorite artists and musicians that you've gotten to play with? Guys you kind of come up with that really, you looked up to and kind of helped you along the way.
Well, I'll start. I'm not just saying this because he's sitting behind the camera, but Michael, we played a lot of shows together. I was telling you stories about going to Rome, Georgia. We've been out to side by side side by side parks where they're doing donuts, drunk at 1 a.m. in the middle of the thing up on. I mean,
That
done
seems to
some
be a
crazy
common
stuff.
occurrence with Michael. He gets you in those situations because I found myself in those same exact
Yeah,
situations.
yeah. We've done some fun stuff, man. Had some good times, but um, early on, like I said, I was. There's so much to getting yourself ready to play in front of people,
So much.
learning the songs,
So overwhelming.
learning in a song that I might really, really like that I love to play and I feel like I perform good might not resonate with the guys that are drunk and guys and gals that are drunk in a bar at 10 o'clock at night. And you have to accept those things. But when I first met Michael, he was playing the Hank Jr. stuff and some of the old country songs, and we'd sit back and go song for song, and I'm thinking, man, like, I forgot about that one. That's a
Yeah.
good song. I played a lot of shows with Jack Fiddler. I know you guys are
We had
familiar.
Jack in here.
Yeah, he had been on. He's an amazing guy. Jack is, I call him the human jukebox, man. There's not a song he can't play.
We always say
Um,
he's one of the hardest working musicians we've
yeah,
ever met.
he is, man. He's always grinding no matter what. But yeah, I play a lot of great artists and cool people. I got to open up for some bigger people. We got the first group of people I got to meet was Confederate Railroad. Bill Miller out of Cahoots and my brother have kind of built a relationship, and
Right.
Bill's been super good to me from being kicked out of his bar and band for a little while to having me open up for some of these big artists.
Yeah.
I was born in '98, so Confederate Railroad. I knew a lot of their bigger songs.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was talking about Dr. Hook earlier. In their set, they cover the Rolling Stones. Eddie Montgomery. I was talking about listening to him. My dad would play their CDs all the time. Montgomery Gentry. I got to open up for Eddie Montgomery out there too. So we've been a lot of places and played a lot of shows, and it's been cool.
Did you get to meet those guys in Confederate
I
Railroad?
did. So we were sat. When you first start playing, you get nervous in front of people. Well,
Oh,
I've been
man.
playing all these acoustic shows, and I thought I had it licked. Here comes Danny, the lead singer.
Yeah,
When you
Danny
see him on
Shirley.
stage, he's in a huge coat and a big old hat, kind of similar to Eddie Montgomery in a sense. And
And
he
the
come
real
out.
deal songwriter, man.
Yeah,
Danny Shirley's
yeah.
good. And I love all their stuff. They got a little bit of a dated image and all that, for now. It's kind of, but the early 90s, man, there wasn't nobody bigger
Yeah.
for a minute,
He came in while we were sound checking, and he was wearing like some sweats, drinking his coffee. And so I didn't really recognize him at first, and I started looking. I was like, "Oh yeah, it's him."
Yeah.
And went up and talked to him. They were so nice to us. They had their tour bus there. They were just passing through, and Bill had booked them, and they gave us the green room. And I mean, the whole group, top to bottom, was just they're super nice guys. I met Eddie Montgomery, and I was really excited for that one. Growing up listening to him, we didn't have a whole lot to talk about.
Yeah, it
And
can be tough, man.
It's just it's part of it. I'm taller than him though. I always thought he was super big, but I'm a little taller than he is.
On camera, everybody looks 10 foot tall.
And I asked the question. I was like, "Why do you?" And it might have been random, but I was like, "Why do you carry your?" I see you twirling your mic stand around. He said he's an ex-drummer. When he first started, he was drumming, so he just always had his mic stand and he tapes it up and
Right.
rocks out with it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, all those guys were great to me. I didn't talk to Eddie as much, but the Confederate Railroad guys were.
I found myself probably about this time last year going back and digging through a lot of that Montgomery Gentry stuff
Yeah,
that I hadn't listened to in over a decade,
it's
man.
timeless. Speed,
It's so good.
Scarecrow.
It's so good.
Yeah,
And like they just kind of faded out. And really, even looking back at the state of what country music was in those days, it was kind of surprising to see that they reached because they were mainstream.
what I thought was super cool, Troy passed away in a helicopter accident.
Right.
What I thought was super cool, he's a great performer, Eddie Montgomery. He really get the crowd into it. But they would pass Troy's parts all throughout the band, not just one backup singer or something would sing his parts. It would be passed, whether it was the drummer, bass player, they all sang, back and forth. So I thought that was super neat.
Yeah, it's crazy about Troy, man. Like you can have it all.
Yeah.
You can have everything, all the success. You've been everywhere, done everything. You got money, you got family, you got everything. And
If I'm ever lucky enough,
50-something years old, you just never know.
if I'm ever lucky enough to get famous, I don't think I'll get a helicopter.
Yeah, it's been the downfall of a lot of great
Yeah.
musicians. You
Yeah.
know, that's what a buddy of mine, my buddy Andy, that does my producing and stuff for me. He's like, I play guitar just good enough to not want to fly on an airplane. I was like, I understand that. Do you have a favorite place that you've played? Like you got like a hometown bar, like an old haunt that you know.
Oh man,
You never spent much time at the Hitching Post in Portland?
yeah, I played at the Hitching Post.
Yeah.
So backstory: my brother Ricky, we were mentioning, his grandfather owned the Hitching Post.
Okay.
He started the Hitching Post, and they still have a fly swatter in there that is Granny's fly swatter. So story on that: these older men come in there on lunch or after work, whatever, and when they would curse, she'd slap them with that fly swatter. And they used to, you drive down 31 and see all the rabbits out there, and they would serve rabbit and all that. But Glenn Prohaska was my brother's grandfather, so I'm partial to the Hitching Post because of him.
It's back to the Hitching Post now.
Yeah. I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, I've been telling Mike we need to get some.
I love
food
that
there.
place. I feel like I always wind up at the Hitching Post though when I've been somewhere else and had a little too much.
Yeah.
It's that place.
Yeah.
But super cool vibes. I played up at the Dive in Cave City, and just neat places. That place is super neat. The owners, I think, is Mike, the guy from American Pickers,
wow.
is married to the owner, and they got like a coffee shop in a place right there, and it's just a very neat place to play. As far as like it's a dive bar. That's the name of it, but it's super divey. And we've been on a lot of cool stages.
Is there a crazy gig night that sticks out to you? Played a show and then things got a little turn up afterwards.
There's probably been a couple of them. I remember we lost Jack Fiddler at this.
That was in Cave City, wasn't it?
No,
Oh, was it?
it was in like Appalachia.
Yeah, somewhere in Kentucky.
Yeah, like it was out there.
He had a diabetic thing, didn't he?
Yeah.
He went missing.
Yeah. Yeah,
But he was a
that or
little drunk too, wasn't he?
I think it was a little mix of both.
He blamed it on his diabetes.
We're like, Jack, where are you at? I think when he come back, I think he was like writing a song about it at one point or something. But so how we met the guy did like the alumni high school football games, and so he bought all this land out there, and they started doing that with side by sides and stuff. But that's a super cool place to play. Now the stage is like overlooking the little valley there, and yeah, we got pretty rowdy after that one. I'm trying to think like real wild, but maybe I shouldn't talk about those. I don't know.
It's all allegedly.
Yeah.
So you were writing songs before you kind of got out performing and stuff.
Yeah.
You started
Well,
writing.
Small Town Tennessee, I mentioned, was the first song I ever fully wrote on paper.
Right.
I wrote it in a notebook, and I took it to over to Chase Matthews' house at the time. We used to hang around a little bit, and he like did a little demo for me. But yeah, it was just like the first thing I penned. And I started writing a few, probably a lot that I threw away, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, anybody that writes, you get 5% of what you write that's actually somewhat usable, you know.
yeah.
Have you ever heard someone randomly playing one of your songs that you didn't know? Like you're just out and about and just hear your own self like bumping in the background?
I heard somebody drive by on a motorcycle one time playing my song, and I was like,
Hell yeah.
you know,
It's
it was
gotta
ar-
be
it was around
crazy
town, and I was
feeling.
like, whoa, you know, who is that? But I was driving by them. Other than that, I hadn't really.
No. Nobody
kinda-
runs up to you, small town famous.
Uh,
Oh my God, are you Billy
when
James?
when I first started, that's funny you said that. When I first started playing, I was
Are
actually
you Parker McCollum?
when I first started playing, I was actually in Food Line getting some stuff to grill. I was bent over in the meat section, no Diddy there, and I heard that, somebody say, "Oh my gosh, it's it's Biddy James," and I thought it was like one of
They
my
recognized your ass
No.
versus you?
No.
You just
I was I'm like looking through the stuff. I wasn't paying attention to nobody, and it was like, "Oh my gosh, it's Biddy James." I thought it was my buddy trying to be funny, but it was this little kid, and he's like, "I'm a big fan of your music." You know, he probably heard about it through some family or something. But we took a picture in Food Line, and
You're kind of discrediting
Couple
your reach there. You're like, oh, it's probably,
yeah,
man,
I
found you on the gram.
I should probably BS a little bit more than I do, but
Yeah.
I try not to. I've signed some. Well, you talking about the Hitching Post? I signed a older lady's bra at the Hitching Post.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dustin Spears knows all about that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the new song, man. Kind of how did it all come together and who all was involved in getting it to where it's at?
So, I would like to state until I went into work and showed my father-in-law the demo, I did not know, and I might get a lot of hate for this. I did not
gonna
know
ask you about
Elvis had a song called Heartbreak Hotel. And so it was sitting in my notes for a while, and then I started writing the song.
But you organically come up with that.
Yeah,
And you can't copyright a song title.
right.
We could sit down and write Sweet Home Alabama today.
Well, where I come from, we were just talking about Montgomery Gentry, and then where I come from, cornbread and chicken. Alan Jackson.
It's very interesting to me, though, because Heartbreak Hotel, the Elvis song, at one time would have probably been in the top 10 most influential songs on rock and roll for the next 30 years after its release. But it kind of just goes to show you, no matter how big you are, eventually there will be a generation that don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
And that's just
I
how it
hate
gets,
that.
you know.
I
I don't mean that to say like
Right.
you should care, because to be honest with you, had I not heard Leonard Skinner do the acoustic version of Heartbreak Hotel on this specific Endangered Species album that me and Michael talk about all the time, I probably wouldn't have been aware of it either. You
Yeah.
know, it's just your influences and stuff. But at one time, I mean, the Elvis in that song, I mean, he kind of that would have been one of the top, very first like rock and roll songs that came out.
I just, like I said earlier, I was born in '98, and Elvis is huge. I've watched his documentaries and stuff, and
That one slipped by you.
yeah, I just didn't pay
That's
attention.
okay. That's okay.
But
Who
I
let you in on the secret?
um, oh, that the song title was the same.
Yeah.
My father-in-law,
Okay.
and he was like, "Well, doesn't Elvis have a song called Heartbreak Hotel?"
And it was already written and recorded.
I
And
showed him the demo.
you'd been through all these people, and nobody had bothered.
Well, I was
to-
recording with Bailey Williams, produced this track, and he's my age,
Yeah.
maybe a year younger. So
I get it,
it
man.
slipped by him,
Well, like I
but-
said, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I wrote the song from a standpoint, and this is funny. We talked about this. I wrote a song about basically a girl leaving a guy, and he thought it would be everything that he could ever want, and she kind of just hangs out with him one night and is gone before he wakes up, type
Right.
deal. And yeah, I got a I got a fiance and a beautiful little girl at home, and I'm writing songs like that. But I'm just in a sense writing from a creative standpoint, trying to get these songs, to where just because it's not my life right now doesn't mean there's somebody out there that isn't going to resonate with it.
And I mean, I always bring this up. John Prine, he's like a singer, songwriter, folk artist type thing. He had a song called "Angel from Montgomery," and it's from the perspective of being the housewife.
Yeah.
But he wrote it himself and sang it, and everything,
Yeah.
So there's no rules in music. Music's for saying the things that you want to say, in any kind of creative way. We're all just trying. They're all about love and loss, and there's happy songs and sad songs when it all boils down to it. And everything's kind of been done, going back to the Heartbreak Hotel, kind of, it already being a song. Everything's been done. Like none of us are reinventing the wheel. We're all just trying to find a different perspective to say the same thing,
I will say when I come up with a song title and put it in my notes, usually I type it in on Apple Music to see,
Yeah.
if there's like a big artist. I didn't on that one.
Yeah.
I guess I wish I would have. And sorry to the Elvis fans out there. He's a legend, but that
Maybe you'll
slipped
get
by me.
some clicks off of it.
Yeah, yeah. If you're an Elvis fan, check out my music.
Yeah.
No, actually, well, please do, but
Yeah.
you're probably not gonna like it,
There's another artist I listen to, Jason Eady, and he's got a song called Cry Pretty. And then Carrie Underwood had a song called Cry Pretty too. He said when he first seen that she was releasing, he thought it was his song.
Oh wow.
He was like, I finally got a huge cut. He was spending money already, and then it comes out and it has nothing even remotely to do with him,
Yeah.
It's like, well, back to the drawing board. So who's the guy that's producing for you? Have you
Bailey.
been working together for a while? Or?
Yeah, so I actually met Bailey. We were using the same producer. We were working with Alejandro Medina down at Third Line Studios, and that's who I worked with when I first started. And he's a great guy, great producer. And we got to the point where I wasn't really recording much, but I introduced Bailey to Alejandro, and he did some work for him. And Bailey's he grew up, his grandfather's like played in a bunch of bands and stuff, and he's really influenced by him. And he just got all the software and started messing with it, and we were sitting at his house and messing with some demos that were probably really, really bad at first, but he's came a long way, and man, he's really invested the time into getting all the right stuff that he needs and kind of figuring it out. He's still figuring a little bit of it out, but he's doing good.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch you guys kind of all come up together, So you're kind of really taking a down home approach to it. Like you're using, people that are on the kind of same level as you are.
Yeah.
You're not going out dropping thousands of dollars to
It's
put this
just,
stuff together.
it's tough, man. And I've done that, and my brother, he's helped me out a lot early on with the music. At one point I was full-time music. I left the city, and he was just trying to get me like 3 or 4 gigs a week, to get by. Was that silly? Probably. Where I'm sitting now is silly at the time. I gave up a pretty good job at the city. I was crew lead over there, and was just like, I'm gonna take this leap. But in a sense, as a young artist, there's people out here blowing up off of songs that are recorded on a laptop in a bedroom, and 2 years later, I'm talking about Bailey Zimmerman, he's touring with Morgan Wallen.
Yep.
So it just goes to show you, there is, I kind of got into that Nashville scene, worked with some guys, and kind of seen how they were doing things, and there's no shade there, but if you can kind of contract things out yourself if you need to,
Yep.
in a sense. Not now, these guys, no matter how much money I'm spending, they're not getting the A players in Nashville. You know, not saying that the people that have played on my earlier music or they're not great. They're phenomenal musicians, but it's somebody I could probably reach out to myself. So we just kind of started taking a different approach. I don't know if you need to go spend $5 grand a song when you have nothing as far as any portfolio. Imagine if I had the opportunity and I went and spent $5 grand a song on 18 songs. You know, then it would have been really hard to take those down.
You really have to be honest with yourself, the level that you're on.
Right.
And that's where it helps to have people around you that can help you be honest with
Yeah,
yourself.
absolutely.
And you also, you know, like you said, you can't develop as an artist when you've dropped 40 grand on these songs. You know, each song has to deliver, and you have to at least see some hope of a slight return at least.
Yeah.
Where when you have opportunities to do things on a budget, you can go in and be creative. You know, you can just, well, let's see, because some of the biggest songs for the biggest artists are songs that maybe they didn't really have much faith in, but somebody was like, oh, let's see.
Well, back to what you were saying, I was watching a podcast one time. Morgan Wallen wasn't a fan of Chasing You at first.
Yeah.
I think they held on to it for quite a while until he finally dropped it. And I think he dropped it and then they recut it or something that blew up. But
See, I think he's an artist that probably had a much different perspective of what he wanted to be
yeah,
when he came to town. And I think he just got lucky and got around the right people that
Right.
could take him in a direction that was to the top.
yeah,
You know, and people talk about Nashville being a 10-year town, and they say it's not so much 10 years to have success. It's more just 10 years until you find the people that you need to find and develop your team to get to the success, you know.
absolutely.
Do you remember the process of writing Heartbreak Hotel? Like, did it all come together pretty quick, or was it one you kind of had to whittle away at for a while?
To be honest, this goes. We were talking about how you record. My brother has a storefront up in Portland, and he's got a podcast room in it. And Bailey just brought his stuff one day. The song was not written on guitar. I wrote it over a beat, and I wrote it in like I had the start of the chorus, but probably 30, 45 minutes. We just rolled through it and was like, let me lay this down, and then I try to, in a sense, when I write a song, I try to remind myself to stay relevant. It's so easy, and y'all know this, writing a song, it can go about a truck very easily. It can go about whiskey very easily. But like, how can I tie those things together and stay on one topic? If I'm talking about the whiskey or if I'm talking about the girl, let's keep talking about,
Right.
and try to stay on topic with those things. But it was a pretty quick process with that song. I had it sitting for, I don't know, probably a month, the demo in my phone. My buddies were like, send it to me. I want to play it on my motorcycle, or send it to me. I got to show somebody this, and send them the demo out. And I was like, man, I'm going to put it out and see what we can do. So I started, after the TikTok ban almost happened, I made a video and posted a little snippet of it on there and was like, I'm going to use this platform to kind of help me a little bit. So,
Right.
yeah.
You enjoy being in the studio? Do you enjoy when it's done, or?
Yeah. Well, back to talking about Bailey, man. It's just we've played shows together and we're close in age, man. We just kick it and cut up. It's so easy to create with him.
Yeah.
Versus, you go downtown and you pay $3 to $5 a song, and they got you in there on this 2-hour time slot, and you really got to nail these vocals and have everything ready as soon as you walk in the door. You're in a different headspace. It doesn't allow you to. Man, I got to sit here and I'm writing while I'm in the studio. It's just you feel so much more free, and it's so much more easier to create like that for me.
Yeah, when you're on a budget, man, and and you're trying to get stuff done, because some of the best stuff takes days.
Yeah.
Refugee with Tom Petty, I heard they done over 190 takes.
That's crazy.
But back then everything was done to tape. You really had to nail it.
It's weird for an artist though, and I know I was looking at your Instagram one day and I was seeing that you cut I seen it on the podcast too. You cut your album out in
Salina.
So it's real close to Del Hollow. We used to go to Del Hollow all the time and camp out there. But as an artist, man, hearing these songs, you almost hate the song before you get to put it out.
Yeah, man, I've been really struggling with this because, like, when you first go in and you first make a record, you know how records are made, but you don't really know nothing about making a record.
Right.
And when it's done, you've learned so much. You almost want to just go back and do it again because you know you could produce a better product.
Right.
But it's like by the time I do that, I'm going to literally hate every one of these songs. And everybody around me that's involved is going to hate these songs too. You can't really hold it that dear to you. You know, you got to just do it, use it as a learning experience, put it out, and I'm just trying to move on to the next one. You know? Let those live, let it be what it's going to be, and that's a moment in time and a stage in my artistry, and you got to follow it up with something else. You know,
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be so tough, and you get overcritical on yourself, and that's where it helps when you have a place to record that you have free range of.
Right.
You know, you can just go in any time, day or night, that you're feeling inspired. You know, when you're going to a destination and you're staying in a hotel and you're paying day rates for studio time and stuff, you got to get in there and go to work.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're feeling it or not. You know, and I really kind of struggled with that because I'm an artist that really relies a lot on inspiration.
Yeah.
You know, I got to kind of get fired up about it. So you've mostly just been writing since you become a dad.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's had a pretty dramatic change on you as an artist?
Yeah.
It had to have just changed everything for you.
It does.
Your whole perception of almost every aspect.
It makes you think about the things that you do and say. And I'm working on a rap feature right now. We've talked about this, but it makes you think like now the stuff that I'm putting out, my daughter's going to listen to one day. And if you're really taking pride in it and you're hoping it's going to go somewhere, then she probably will in a sense. But yeah, it made me want to slow down. You know, I got less interested in, being an hour or two away and playing till 1 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock and drinking and doing all that stuff. So, yeah, it changes a lot. There's so much that it changes. You don't really think about it, but yeah, I've slowed down a lot, started getting into the writing. And right now, man,
have you found that it's changed your taste in music? Like maybe the artist that you see yourself being is maybe something a little shade different than what it was a few years ago?
Yeah. Honestly, in a sense though, I feel like the new stuff that I'm coming out with is a little bit more upbeat than the stuff I was putting out before, but I wrote some songs about her and my fiance since then that I'm going to put out acoustically, or I don't know what we'll end up doing with it, but yeah, I would say in a way it has.
Yeah. What's the weirdest spot you've ever written a song?
Well, I have a song. I was sitting in the drive-thru at Taco Bell, and I started writing a first verse of a song, and I like it. I like it a lot. I haven't put it with anything or like tracked anything with it, and I haven't finished writing it, but I come up with a whole first verse.
Yeah.
Not at the first window, at the second window, because they were taking too long with my food.
Well, hey, man, you got to make a silver lining out of it.
I was just sitting in my truck, and I was like, and then started writing. That's probably the weirdest spot I've ever done it.
Yeah. Like it strikes you in the oddest times, man, and like you'll lie to yourself. I found out early on, I'd lie to myself like, oh, okay, that's really catchy. I'll remember that. And then you have no clue. 20, 30 minutes the next day, you remember you had something really good, but it's gone, man.
Yeah.
And you have to write it down. And now that we have phones or voice memos and stuff, it's so much easier to keep up with all that stuff. But I think back in the day, you'd see guys pulled over on the side of the highway, writing on the side of the window, trying to get that thing down.
I take that back. So Name on a Welcome Sign is a song I wrote pretty earlier on, and it was really inspired by seeing Ronnie McDowell and Corey Brewer on the Portland Welcome Sign. But we were going out to Del Hollow. I don't know who she is, but there's a woman from Salina that had been Miss Tennessee or got close, was in the Miss Tennessee running, and she has her name going on. If you go like, instead of just hitting 52 and following it straight out, if you cut down right there after you get through like Lafayette and all that and take the back way, come over this bridge. And so we got to the gas station, and I went in there and I recorded a voice memo of the first of that song while taking a leak at the gas station.
Hell
I
yeah.
was like, I was just rambling, but yeah, I love to try to get, if I got some, it does, it pops up at the worst times. I try to hit that voice. I've got some ugly voice memos in my phone, man, that sound like but I know what I'm trying to say, you know.
I probably have 1,000
Yeah.
voice memos from literally 6, 8 years worth of stuff.
Yeah.
And I just cringe at the thought of ever going back through and listening to that stuff again. But I can't bring myself to delete it because I know there's probably some, if it triggered me enough to get me to record it back then,
There's probably a song idea.
there's definitely stuff in there, What are some of the other stuff you're interested outside of music? You have hobbies and stuff you're passionate about?
Yeah.
With the new kid, though, that's probably put a damper on your free time.
Yeah. I like to golf.
Okay. You good at it?
No.
Okay.
No.
At least you're honest.
But I'll tell people this, and I feel like any guy that likes to just be outside, if you want to have a few drinks, you should go golf a couple times with your buddies that aren't good. I don't have too many buddies that are good at golf. And man, it's so fun. You don't have to be in the greatest physical shape to play this game.
Yeah.
I enjoy golfing a lot,
Some
and I do
sun,
that
some fresh air.
Yeah, from time to time. And the courses are taken care of. The grass is usually cut nice, so it's pretty fun.
Probably get some song ideas out there too.
Yeah, yeah. Especially winding down in the evening, man. It's pretty out there wherever you are.
Right. Do you have other songs in the can that are ready to be released, or you have other songs that you're getting ready to record soon?
Right now I've got truly ready to go. I probably got about 3 songs.
Okay.
Well, I'll go ahead. April 11th or 28th, I hadn't figured out yet. I'm gonna drop a song called Whiskey Neat.
Okay.
That's my next single. I've got it this weekend. It'll be sent to get mastered. So, yeah, I'm gonna try to. I'm holding myself to this. I'm gonna try to stay on a 6-week rotation on these songs.
Dropping a new song
Just
every
pumping them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the business is so up in the air. I don't think anybody knows the right or wrong way to do anything anymore. There used to be a pattern, like a set way that albums were released and promoted and this, that, and the other. But nowadays it's just
Well, one thing I found as a younger artist, and if you go look at my listeners right now across Spotify and Apple Music, my numbers aren't anything. And early on, we threw an album up. Well, if I have a select crowd of people that's listening to my music, I don't need to put out an album. I think singles are where it's at for somebody earlier in their career. If they're not going to listen to your one single, they're probably not going to listen to a 10-song album. I'm just going to keep it real with you. And that's something you have to be real with yourself about.
Yep.
You spend a lot of time into creating a body of work like that when in all reality, I just don't think that's the move I think albums are when you have a solid fan base and people are really listening.
And I think people that know the business will kind of tell you that. They're like, if you're putting out albums, you're kind of messing up. Like, you need to drop singles, and maybe if you've dropped 6 or 8 singles, you can put those on an album and re-release it.
Yeah, a lot of people do that, with EPs and stuff. There's no shame in it. I mean, like you said, be free about. You can't be too critical.
Right.
Now I critique those early songs, and my brother's like, "Man, what are you talking about?" I hate on them a little bit, but I'm thankful for those songs. I'm thankful to be able to go back and listen to them and see. I'd like to think I've come a little ways as a songwriter versus that early stuff. So it's cool to look back on it, but.
It's also one thing to think about being independent. If you're independent, you have the option to take those songs down.
Right.
If you were with a record label, that wouldn't be up to you.
I know.
And there's a lot of artists out there. Marty Stewart, I just heard him talking about it the other day. He said he couldn't listen to anything he'd done for the first 10 years, that he was releasing professional music.
Wow.
He didn't enjoy one single thing that he done for a decade.
I've heard a lot of artists say that usually the song that does it for you is one you probably hate. So
it's not the one, it's never going to be the one that, you feel is like the most powerful one, If your new single, Heartbreak Hotel, was a cocktail, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'd say it'd probably be like a whiskey Coke, a little Jack and Coke.
Yeah. A little sweet and salty.
Yeah.
A little goes down smooth but burns on the back end. Okay, what is something about you? It doesn't necessarily have to be music, but that you're interested or that you like that might surprise people? You have like a guilty pleasure? You like binging chick flicks on Netflix or anything?
No, I wasn't just saying this because we're on a podcast. I'm to the point where I can barely get Katie to sit down and watch something with me. I'm podcast through and through.
Yeah.
Whether it's Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn,
Yeah.
we Tracy Lawrence has a real good TL's Roadhouse. I've watched all.
It's really popping off right now
Yeah.
as a medium, you know.
Yeah.
And I think I've heard a lot of people talk about Nashville being like a hub for this.
Yeah, a lot of podcasters and like people that are doing that are trying
Mm-hmm.
to, and even people that are in music and established, they use it too. I mean,
Yeah, it's
just
a
throwing
huge
stuff on.
platform that, and that's kind of what we try to do here is just give people a platform to talk about what they got going on that people aren't really giving people, you know.
Well, I stated it earlier. I've watched every single one of them. From y'all putting your lives on the line to, up until I haven't watched the newest one, but I enjoy it.
We've
man.
been
Y'all
putting
have a
our
great
lives
day.
on the line. The past week has been very detrimental to our health, man. We've been hanging out the back of trucks and
Well, if
been doing-
if it makes you feel good, I was laying in bed probably 10:30 at night and started belly laughing at y'all saying that. So that's pretty funny. That's some funny stuff.
It's been tough, man. We've been all over, and we've done some rap videos, and like with some people that got some money on their head, I think, or something. I don't know, man. It was getting crazy. And then we're out there with you guys, and it's just we're doing burnouts in the middle of the road, and there's a biker gang, and we're hanging out of the back of some random dude's Tahoe, and we got cameras, and it's been crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's been a wild year for everybody, I know, but we've been in the thick of it.
Yeah.
What would be your bucket list tour lineup, including yourself, with anybody living or dead? Like, if you could go on tour being kind of from the perception of an opening act, like who would you think would be the most fun to be on the road and also could put you in front of crowds that you think you would resonate with your music?
Well, I like to tour around. I'm a big Travis Tritt fan, but I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm realistic enough to know that if you put me opening up for Travis Tritt, there's probably going to be some people in there that like my music, but maybe not everybody because it's a different time of music, and it's I'm a big fan of a lot of people, and I elaborated on this. A lot of people made fun of him at first, but I think he really, to me, brought like the 808 stuff to country music. I'm a big fan of Sam Hunt.
Okay.
I know it sounds funny, like "Body Like a Back Road" isn't my favorite song in the world, but some of the stuff that he writes and the stuff that he's put out maybe in the past 2 to 3 years has really resonated with me.
Right.
He went over the hump. I'm not getting into his whole life story, but he's having children and stuff like that, and I really enjoy his music and stuff like that. But say Sam Hunt, I don't know. That's tough. If I was just picking my favorite artist, I would say Travis Tritt. I like Aldean a lot, like early Aldean. Probably Aldean. And
Can you see yourself maybe being in a Bailey Zimmerman position to where you're relatively unknown and then all of a sudden you're on the biggest stage in country music?
I don't know. I think that'd be a whirlwind.
To me, I don't particularly, my opinion, I mean, it's obviously going to have financial benefits and maybe you might make enough off of it where you never really have to truly struggle ever again. But there's a certain thing about the quicker you get to the top, the quicker you can get to the bottom.
Right.
If you have this long, drawn out climb, it usually takes longer to get back down. When you rock it up so fast, and I really thought Bailey Zimmerman was probably going to fizzle out pretty quick.
Yeah.
He was getting a lot of negativity on social media, and people were just kind of running him through the ringer. And a lot of it was the fact that he just was in a position that he hadn't worked up to yet. Nothing against his artist, like who he is as an artist or anything. He was green. He was still green.
He hadn't played any live shows, and on his scale of music and the way he sings, he was still learning how to breathe on stage.
It almost made me wonder about the motives of like Morgan Wallen's management and stuff about putting that guy on that tour. It's almost like do we want to show them who the real?
Yeah. I think he almost like little broed him and just brought him in. Was like, man, let's grow. And
I
I
hope
think
it's
that's
from a
so
place
cool.
of, but I'm just always skeptical about
Yeah,
stuff like
I
that.
think I think it was from a place of like he'll develop. But his first song, I forget exactly which one it was. I watched
It's that
some
rock in a
stuff.
hard place, maybe.
Man, just massive.
Yeah.
Got on TikTok and just, but a lot of that comes from, and I'm sure y'all feel a certain type of way about this. TikTok is, he come off TikTok. There's a lot of artists on there that do that though, that have never played live shows. There's a lot of people that can't play guitar and this and that. Um, I'd like to think that although I don't think the shows that I've played so far have really just advanced me anywhere, I'd like to think that I don't get that rap of like people looking at me like, oh man, he's just singing on TikTok. Hell, you don't
Right.
sing nowhere.
Oh, dude,
We've
you've
played a
been
lot
out
of
there.
shows,
Yeah. Yeah. And done a lot for this area of the music scene.
and that's part of it. I think I think everybody should cut their teeth a little bit.
I mean, there for a while, all the gigs that we were all playing were kind of revolving around you,
Yeah.
like the ones y'all were putting together and giving opportunities for all these guys around here to play on. What is your ideal of success in music? What would be a spot where you would get at to where you feel like, okay, I am a successful musician? Because that means so many different things to so many
Yeah.
people.
Well, you ask people like your version of making it might be different than a lot of people's, but I would like to one day I would like to be able to make music for a living.
Right.
First of all, second of all, I think I've never really put myself in the setting, but if I like these full band gigs that we're trying to cook up and the show that we're trying to build, I would like to feel comfortable doing that. I want to know what that feels like when you're in front of, a good crowd and you actually put on a show.
Right.
Like I want people to go home and talk about it, like have the energy that we brought and stuff. But making it to me, I would say just being able to be comfortable and make music for a living, man. I would like to play the Grand Ole Opry one day.
Right. That's your bucket list venue.
I've never been.
Yeah.
Never been to the Opry. I've not been there to watch a show or anything like that. But yeah, I'd like to. And if I don't play it, I don't think I'll go.
Yeah. The first time you go, you want it to be when they invite you through the back door.
How cool. And I'm not shaming anything or saying anything, but I don't think you have to be as big as you used to have to be to play the Opry now.
Nope.
Have you noticed it?
Nope. You don't have to at all. It
I
don't mean as much.
Right.
They let a lot of people on there.
Yeah. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of artists. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to discredit anyone. And
I
congratulations.
think it's maybe kind of been like that for a good while. It's just with social media, you see these people that maybe you don't feel like are on that level getting the opportunities to do those things. But I knew a guy, he had a little gospel band in the 80s, and they got invited to play the Thursday Night Opry. And they went on there and done their few songs, and, it was a huge deal to them, even back then,
Right.
He said they got done and left, and they were packing all their gear out, and they looked back at the Ryman, and they were like, we'll be back. And he said that was 40 years ago. That was their one and only thing, So some of those people, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. They have this series on you see it on Facebook and stuff, Opry debut or whatever, and it'll be like some random people that you've really never heard of.
Well, my podcast rabbit hole kind of took me there. I seen a couple Opry debuts, and then I was watching some, and I'm just scrolling. I'm like, wow, like I said, I don't want to discredit anyone, and I'm not in any position to take that away from artists. Everybody has goals, but yeah, I would like to play it one day. I just don't think I'll go unless I get invited.
It used to be a lot different. They wouldn't let Jerry Lee Lewis play on there forever. They banned him and Hank Williams, and now they let Jelly Roll on there do his thing and stuff.
Yeah.
So kind of, we talked about you wanting to drop a song every 6 weeks. Where else do you see yourself headed over the next year or so? Do you have gigs lined up, or your book's pretty clean right now other than just building that portfolio of music?
Right now, as we speak, I've got 2 full band gigs lined up.
Okay.
And I got till the first one's in July as of now. I made a Facebook post about this the other day, and I think some people took it as like I was signing a record deal or something, but I was contacted by a booking agency, a guy named Joey Lee, works down at WME in Nashville. He works with everybody from, he's gearing up to do Alan Jackson's last show this is his final tour.
Mm-hmm.
And we asked him, like, is he going to Garth Brooks this? Is he going to George Strait us? They come back to
Well, he's had some health issues.
yeah, and yes, so he's like, this is
He's having
actually
some trouble.
his last show. What was so special to me about that, being an artist, and like you said, I've been laying low, just trying to write. You come across me on social media, and so to have anybody sitting down there in Nashville even notice what I have going on, or to even bring light to that, he brought us up to the office, and I'm starting to work with a guy named Dylan Patterson. He's kind of taking over the management side. Of course, my brother always helped me
Right.
in any way he can, but we were all in there, and he just kind of broke it down and asked me what my plans were over the next few months into the end of the year, and told me when I was ready to let him know and we'd start working. So
Right.
super excited about that. It was cool to sit in front of somebody that's not really asking anything from you. I've been to the record label, and there's certain things when you meet people, it's almost like a money grab from you, or they want this. This guy was just like, I think you have something cool about you, and if you ever need anything, let me know. Gave me his phone number, told me to call him when I'm ready.
Those are usually the people that are the best to have around.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see those people that aren't taking on very many artists, but for whatever reason they're interested in you.
Yeah.
There's a big female artist manager, Mary Spar, and she was kind of influential with Coulter Wall and Morgan Wade. She's a female singer songwriter. Kind of blew them up. She just lives in Bowling Green, but she said I've probably had 1,600 inquiries about management from artists. She said I've picked up 4 artists in 6 years.
Yeah.
And those are the people that they have your best interest, because everybody's got to make money.
Well, I had a guy message me on Instagram, and it wasn't some account with thousands of followers. He had a private Instagram, and he was just like, hey, I'm an agent for Joey Lee, and I want you to come in, or he wants to meet you. Can you set up a time, or are you local enough to where you could come in and meet us, rather than a phone call? And so just to have those guys even looking my way or curious about what I've got going on, it's kind of a good feeling. And, you've been around the past couple of weeks. We've been working on content stuff. I'm just kind of getting into the swing of things. But I think right now for me, the best way to go is to be releasing this music over and over and build a live show.
Yeah.
So when you gear up and I've got this stuff on social media and you're watching this, I mean, the content alone sets a high bar, itself. I want you to be able to pull up to a show and be like, wow, I'd go to another one.
Right.
So
how do you feel about being put on the road?
It would have to make sense for me. I got a plug. I work at Sanford Trailer Sales over in Greenbrier right now. I work for my father-in-law, and I enjoy that. Man, it would take a lot for me to leave.
Right.
In a sense. So.
But you would have the ability to, say, gig probably Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks a month.
Yeah.
And I think if you can get help and get on big gigs, it makes the leaving a little less hard, because you're going to something that's good versus leaving to go to fucking Rome, Georgia with McGregor in a stolen Sprinter van to a chicken fight or whatever.
Yeah.
When you're going to play for 5,000 people, your family and your kids and stuff understand a little, or at least feels a little more, beneficial.
I totally agree there.
Well, man, you got anything else you want to cover? It's been great having you in here. We really appreciate it.
I'm good, man. I want to say thank you for having me on.
Right.
Like I said, I'm a podcast junkie, and I love what y'all got going on. This is a cool setting.
Yeah, we love it, man. We
Feels
really
like just
enjoy
a
doing it.
conversation. I think those are the best podcasts when it's just two people talking. But yeah, you do a great job, and
we've had a
shout
lot
out
of cool people in here, man. We've met some cool people, and like I said, we're just trying to give artists a platform to swing through. And whenever you get ready to drop a new song, you get these gigs and you start opening up for Jelly Roll, we're going to have you come back in here and tell us all about it.
Yeah.
Shout out your socials. Where people find you at?
I'm going to drop Facebook. All right. Yeah. You got to look me up on Facebook, Biddy James Music. Facebook's been treating me good lately. TikTok is like _ Biddy James _ I've only got one account on there. There's like 13 fake ones. I don't know why anybody would want to make a fake account of me, but there's 13 of them. I try to block them. What weirded me out when they posted a video that I posted of my daughter. I thought that was weird.
Yeah, so who are those people, you reckon?
I don't know. But yeah, and then Instagram is _ Biddy James _ same thing. So.
Yeah. Well, check out the new song Heartbreak Hotel, you guys. Everywhere you get music. Until we see y'all next time, peace.